Hello everyone, my name is Slade, I'll be your host, and welcome to Star Wars Did You Know? Just once, I'd like to destroy a starship that we didn't pay for. Built in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars, the EE-76 Nebulon-B Escort Frigate was built by Kuat Drive Yards for the Imperial Navy to serve as an escort ship and anti-piracy vessel for the convoys flying the galactic hyperlanes. However, despite its Imperial origins, the Nebulon-B frigate would gain the most use and notoriety as a member of the Rebel Alliance fleet, where it would be used extensively by the forces resisting the Empire. At 300 meters long, the escort frigate came equipped with 12 turbolasers, 12 laser cannons, 2 tractor beam projectors, and some variants carried an ordnance launcher capable of carrying either proton torpedoes or concussion missiles. In addition, 2 starfighter squadrons could be carried, making the Nebulon-B one of the most powerful, purpose-built warships in the Rebel Alliance's early days. In addition to its armament, the Nebulon-B also carried powerful sensors and a potent communications suite. And while it was meant as a cheap anti-piracy vessel for the Imperial Navy, the Rebel Alliance made extensive use of them as command ships, communication ships, long-range scouts, search and rescue vessels, and even medical frigates. While most Imperial commanders would relegate the Nebulon-B to escort duties and occasional use as a command and communications ship, the Rebel Alliance, resource-strapped and with few actual warships in their inventory, would frequently push the Nebulon-B into frontline combat roles, a role that the craft was never meant to fulfill, and as a result it was frequently outmatched by dedicated Imperial warships, who were able to make use of the obvious weakness in the Nebulon-B's central spar, oftentimes splitting the ship in two by concentrating their firepower on the narrow spar that connected the forward section of the ship and the aft. Despite the glaring weakness in the Nebulon-B's design, it would become one of the most common warships within the Rebel Alliance fleet, with many acquired through defection, theft, and battle salvage, and they'd become a common sight throughout the galaxy, as Kuat Drive Yards would often sell them without the Imperial Navy's permission through third-party vendors, some of which would eventually end up in the hands of the Rebel Alliance. Given the success and popularity of the Nebulon-B, it is little surprise that Kuat Drive Yards would create a follow-on design, and the result would be the Nebulon-B-2. A more combat-oriented vessel, this new frigate would carry heavier armament, armor, and be faster, enabling it to fight on the front lines far more effectively than its predecessor. Both the Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Empire would make extensive use of the B-2, as well as continue to use the Nebulon-B in the ongoing Galactic Civil War. With the lore part of the video concluded, I'd like to discuss an interesting technical aspect of the Nebulon-B, and that is the hangar. While it is reported in multiple sources that the Nebulon-B can carry 2 starfighter squadrons, it's never clarified where they're carried. And while we see medical frigates like the Redemption in The Empire Strikes Back with external docking clamps, in most games and novelizations, the Nebulon-B is displayed as having a hangar. However, no one can quite agree how large this hangar is or where it exactly is located. Some people have placed the hangar on the central spar, others have placed it on the side of the main hull, and no one can quite agree just what the capacity would be, as the ship's design and size doesn't seem to lend itself to carrying 2 squadrons, 24 fighters, that is often stated in most technical sources. Ultimately, it doesn't seem we're ever going to get clarification on this, which is unfortunate, but it lets us play a little bit. A friend of mine, an artist, has actually come up with his own idea, which I will show you now. The idea is that the hangar is placed facing aft on the main hull and facing the engine compartment, underslung the spar. And it's an interesting idea. However, ultimately, it's up to the reader's interpretation of where they want to place it. And as I said, different games and novels have placed the hangar in different parts, and there doesn't seem to be any real standardized position for it. With that, where do you think the hangar should be, and what capacity do you think it should have? Let me know. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.